James, welcome back. First week back, what's it been like?
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, I thought I might be eased back in, but that's never the case. So I've been out with the boys straight away, playing rugby and getting stuck in with the contact and everything else. So yeah, it's been good. It's it's weird to be back at Acton, but nice to see a lot of fresh faces.
You've not had much of a break the past 12 months, really, playing a couple of seasons back to back. How's the body feeling?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a few little niggles and stuff that need to be looked after. I mean, I always try and look after myself. I take obviously my training pretty seriously.
Yeah.
I did this year try and take 3 weeks off, just completely give my body a rest, and I've been training last week and obviously back into it now. So I'm feeling okay. Obviously I might have to be managed like most players.
3 years away from Wasps, obviously lots changed here, new coaches, new players and so on. What have you made of the new setup?
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. Obviously, Wasps has always been a great club. I think some decisions and things were made that meant that changes had to come in, and I think with new owners hopefully and with Di and his team, Wasps will slowly but surely get back to where it deserves to be, which is at the top of the table. And certainly with the recruitment and the attitude of the guys out there, I think that's going to be going to happen.
How much attention were you paying to Wasps while you were away?
It's difficult, because obviously my being in Japan and going in Super 15, my loyalty and sort of concentration was always on the team in hand.
Yeah.
I think when Wasps were struggling and I'd signed my contract back here, you've got to have one eye on what's going on. But I always had the faith that the guys would manage to stay up and that things would work out. And if it hadn't, then we'd have to cross that bridge when we come to it.
What do you know about the young lads, particularly in the back row and second row, sort of in the places you play, that are coming through, the Joe Launchburys, the Sam Jones, those guys?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard great things, especially about guys like Joe Launchbury. Obviously, he was involved with the England squad, unfortunately not to make it to that South African tour through injury. I think Wasps has always had a strong back row. I earned my spurs playing under some of the best back row players England have ever known. Lawrence Dalio, Joe Worsley, Paul Volley, to name a few, and even Peter Scrivener when he used to play, he was pretty good. I know he's paid me to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Sam Jones as well. I'm looking forward to seeing these guys play in person because, as I said, it's great. It's always good to have competition, especially in the back row, because ultimately the best players sort of rise to the top.
You obviously could have gone to a number of other clubs when you decided to come back to the UK. What was it that made you say, well, actually, I want to go back to Wasps?
I think Wasps, I was always a fan of Wasps when I was a child, and I think a lot of people sort of forget that. Obviously I took a lot of criticism when I initially went away at France, and obviously Alan was welcoming me back with open arms, but I haven't forgotten quite all the banter I took. But no, I was always a fan of London Wasps. I always wanted to come back here. I think when I met Di and when I met the guys and had a conversation with them, and when Steve Hayes was the owner, I think they'd realised that things needed to change, that perhaps the way that the club had been managed wasn't the right way, and that to be competitive you have to pay players the money, you have to invest in facilities, you can't do things on the cheap because you just get left behind. And I think with that mentality, I was excited by where Wasps were going, and I thought if I was going to come back, why not come back to one of the best clubs, or one of the greatest clubs in Premiership history in terms of some of the things they've won, back in London, and obviously playing with Wasps, and if Wasps go well, then you get your England place back, and that's what I'd like to do.
But you're back to sort of different Wasps now. I mean, last year we finished 11th and struggled, I think it's fair to say. What needs to happen this year with the squad that we've got to help us get back up there?
Well, I mean, I think the first objective is not to worry too much about the table and what's happened in the past. I think that's one thing I would never do coming back here, is just talking about what it was like before, because it bears no resemblance. The only thing that's the same is this beautiful, picturesque Acton training ground.
Lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very pleasant.
Better food now.
I think the architect's still in prison who designed this, but yeah, the food's actually excellent. There's one big difference, but I think in terms of players-wise, it's about just getting the group together. It's about shrugging off all the pressures of last season. Mm-hmm. I think with Ken Moss and his guys taking over, and when that all gets done and dusted, everyone will breathe a sigh of relief, and we can all sort of move forward. And the focus is just one game at a time, making sure players that were injured last season have a big impact. And if you sort of take things slowly by surely in this Premiership, then you ultimately find your way at the top. If you look at the bigger picture and worry about things, and if you lose one game and start going, oh God, we're all going down like we did last year, those are thought processes you don't want. So I think it's good, and everyone's positive.
Now, you've always spoken about the reasons for why you went and played in New Zealand, Japan and France and so on, to give you a much more rounded experience as a rugby player. The James Haskell coming back here this season, how different are you to the guy that left 3 years ago?
Yeah, it's interesting to say that, because obviously I've only been here 3 days, but I sort of catch myself walking the corridors thinking, you know, because obviously everything else has changed apart from where you turn up, and obviously you have memories associated with places, and yeah, I think in terms of I'm a lot more mature. I'm not so busy in such a rush to get around. I think I'm enjoying doing some little work with the players, you know, young guys, because it helps you as you're helping them, and I'm just excited to go out here and play. You know, I don't feel there's any expectation on my shoulders. I want to fit in. We've got some great signings this season, and it's more about me just wanting to get back in, get fit, and start playing.
Well, good luck.
Thank you very much.